Marcus Chen stepped off the transport ship and felt the warm breeze of Serenitas Prime touch his face. The air smelled like flowers and fresh rain. Everything around him looked perfect. Green grass-covered rolling hills. Purple and gold trees swayed gently in the wind. Two suns hung in a blue sky, filled with soft white clouds. It was nothing like Earth. He picked up his single bag and walked toward the massive white building ahead. The Zenith Military Academy stretched across the landscape like a gleaming city. Its towers reached toward the sky, and wide bridges connected different sections. Students in dark blue uniforms moved along the pathways between buildings. Marcus had dreamed of this moment for years. Only 3 humans had ever been accepted into the Galactic Defense Corps officer program. He was the first in 20 years. As he walked through the main entrance, conversations stopped. A group of tall, bird-like beings with silver feathers turned to stare at him. Their large golden eyes went wide when they saw him. One of them whispered something in their musical language, and they all backed away. Marcus kept walking. He had expected this. Near the registration desk, a massive being made of what looked like living crystal stood talking to smaller aquatic creatures whose skin gleamed blue-green in the light. When they noticed Marcus, the crystal being's internal light dimmed. The aquatic ones pressed closer together. Internal 9. The registration clerk was a small, fuzzy creature with 6 arms and kind purple eyes. She looked at Marcus's identification card, and her fur stood up slightly. "Marcus Chen," she said in perfect standard galactic. "From Earth." "Yes, ma'am." She stared at the card for a long moment. "Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world." "Yes, ma'am." "The highest danger rating in the Galactic Union." Marcus nodded. "I know." The clerk typed something into her computer with 4 of her 6 hands. The other 2 hands seemed to shake a little. "Your room assignment is Suite 47C in Tower 7. You'll find your schedule and academy handbook in your room." She handed him a key card without looking directly at him. Marcus found Tower 7 without trouble. The academy was well marked, and he had studied the maps before arriving. Students he passed in the hallways moved to the edges of the corridors. Some stopped talking. Others whispered to their friends after he walked by. He had heard the whispers before, in different languages, on different worlds. But the meaning was always the same. Deathworlder. Apex Predator. From the Nightmare Planet. Suite 47C was on the 4th floor. Marcus used his keycard and stepped inside. The room was designed for 4 students. It had 4 beds, 4 desks, and 4 lockers. Nameplates above 3 of the beds showed his roommates: Zephyr of High Winds, Granite Singer, and Tidal Whisper. Marcus chose the bed near the window and unpacked his few belongings. He had brought only the basics: some clothes, a few books, and a small photo of his family back on Earth. Hours passed. Other students moved through the hallways outside, talking and laughing. Marcus could hear them settling into their rooms, meeting their roommates, making new friends. No one came to Suite 47C. As evening came, Marcus walked to the dining hall. The huge room buzzed with conversation in dozens of languages. Long tables, filled with students from across the galaxy. The air smelled like hundreds of different foods from hundreds of different worlds. Marcus got his meal from the food machines. The Academy's computer had his dietary requirements on file. Human food, from a death world. He looked around the dining hall. Every table was full of students, talking, eating, and getting to know each other. He could see Etherians with their beautiful feathers, Vorthak with their crystal bodies that sang when they moved, Neridians whose skin changed color with their emotions, and dozens of other species he recognized from his studies. Marcus found an empty table in the corner and sat down alone. As he ate, he noticed something. Other students would start walking toward his table, then suddenly change direction. Some would point him out to their friends. Others would stare for a moment, then quickly look away. One brave Etherian student approached. She had bright blue feathers and curious orange eyes. "You're the human," she said. "Yes. From Earth. The Deathworld." "That's right." She tilted her head, studying him. "You don't look dangerous." "Well, you don't look dangerous." Marcus almost smiled. "Most dangerous things don't." The Etherean's feathers ruffled. She took a step back. I should go. My friends are waiting." She hurried back to her table. Marcus saw her talking quickly to her friends, who all turned to look at him again. After dinner, Marcus returned to his empty suite. He found a message on his computer from the Academy's housing department. His assigned roommates had requested transfers to different rooms. The request had been approved. Marcus wasn't surprised. He opened his Academy handbook and began reading about the courses he would take. Military strategy, xenobiology, combat training, survival skills, leadership development. He had worked his entire life to get here. Every human who had come before him had graduated at the top of their class. They had become legends in the Galactic Defense Corps, heroes whose names were spoken with respect across the galaxy. But first, they had all walked these same halls alone. Outside his window, the twin suns of Serenitas Prime set behind the mountains. The sky turned beautiful shades of pink and gold. Night-blooming flowers opened in the gardens below, filling the air with sweet perfume. It was peaceful, safe, perfect. Marcus closed the handbook and prepared for bed. Tomorrow, his real education would begin. Not just in military science or galactic politics, but in something more important. Tomorrow, he would start learning how to be human among the stars. 3 weeks passed at the Academy. Marcus attended classes, studied hard, and ate his meals alone. His instructors were professional, but distant. His classmates avoided him except when forced to work together on assignments. The academic work came easily to Marcus. Military strategy made sense to him. The textbooks described conflicts between species, but the basic principles were simple. Know your enemy. Use your advantages. Adapt to changing situations. What puzzled him were the assumptions in every textbook. They all assumed that wars happened between equals, that both sides would follow the same rules, that victory came through superior numbers or better technology. On Earth, nothing was ever equal. In his 3rd week, Instructor Vex Prime announced the first major test. The massive Vorthax crystal body rang like a bell when he spoke. "All first-year cadets will participate in a survival exercise," Vex Prime said. "You will be taken to Umbros, a training world. You have 1 week to survive and complete your mission objectives." The class buzzed with excitement. Several students had older friends who had taken this test. They knew what to expect. "You will work in teams of 4, Vex Prime continued. "The Academy computer has assigned your groups." Over. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Working alone was one thing. Being forced on a team with students who feared him was another. The assignments appeared on everyone's personal screens. Marcus looked at his team members. Zephyr of High Winds, the Etherean who had spoken to him on his first night. Granite Singer, a young Vorthak whose crystal body hummed with nervous energy. And Tidal Whisper, a Nereidian whose skin had turned a worried shade of dark blue. After class, his team gathered in study room 7. The 3 aliens sat on one side of the table. Marcus sat alone on the other. "So," Zephyr said, her feathers ruffled with anxiety, "we need to plan for Umbros." Granite Singer's internal light pulsed slowly. "I have read the files. Umbros has forests, some large animals, and limited water sources. The danger level is rated as moderate." Tidal Whisper's skin shifted to a lighter blue. "My cousin took this test 2 years ago. She said the biggest challenge is finding food and fresh water." They all looked at Marcus. He had been reading about Umbros since the assignment was announced. The planet had dense forests, mountainous regions, and several species of large predators. The Academy files described it as appropriately challenging for developing officers. What do you think? Zephyr asked. Marcus considered his words carefully. The Academy wouldn't send students somewhere truly dangerous. But we should prepare for unexpected situations. What kind of unexpected situations? Granite Singer asked. Animals behaving differently than the textbooks describe. Weather changes. Equipment failures. Tidal Whisper's skin darkened again. You think like everything is trying to kill us. Marcus almost said because everything usually is, but caught himself. I think it's better to prepare for problems we don't need than to need preparations we don't have. The team spent the next hour planning their approach. Marcus suggested they focus on shelter first, then water, then food. His teammates wanted to start with the mission objectives. The Academy wants us to reach 3 checkpoint locations and signal for pickup, Zephyr said. That's the important part. We can't reach checkpoints if we're dead from exposure or thirst. Marcus replied. Granite Singer's light dimmed. You really think we might die? No. Marcus said quickly. The Academy wouldn't risk student lives. But being uncomfortable makes everything harder. As they prepared for departure, Marcus noticed how his teammates interacted with him. They were polite, but careful. They asked for his opinions, but seemed surprised when those opinions were reasonable. They clearly expected him to suggest something violent or reckless. Instead, Marcus suggested they pack extra water purification tablets. He recommended they study the local plant life to identify food sources. He wanted to practice setting up their shelter before they left. His teammates agreed to his suggestions, but he could see the confusion in their expressions. This wasn't how they expected a Deathworlder to behave. The transport to Umbros took 6 hours. Marcus spent the time reading everything he could find about the planet's ecosystem. His teammates dozed or talked quietly among themselves. Umbros looked beautiful from orbit. Green and brown continents covered with thick forests. Blue oceans with scattered islands. White clouds swirling through a golden atmosphere. The shuttle dropped them at Landing Zone 7, deep in the continent's northern forest. Tall trees with thick trunks rose around them like green pillars. Filtered sunlight created patches of light and shadow on the forest floor. The air smelled of leaves and rich soil. It's beautiful, Tidal Whisper said, her skin shifting to a happy green. Marcus was checking the tree line. He had noticed several sets of tracks near their landing zone. Large paw prints in the soft earth. Scratch marks on tree bark at shoulder height. We should move away from the landing area, he said. Why? Zephyr asked. Marcus pointed to the tracks. Something large has been using this area regularly. Probably to hunt. Granite Singer examined the tracks. The files say the local predators avoid areas with shuttle traffic. The files might be wrong, Marcus said. Or these animals might have learned that shuttles mean food. His teammates looked uncertain. The Academy files were supposed to be accurate. But Marcus was from Earth. He might know something about predators that they didn't. They decided to move their camp 2 kilometers away, near a small stream Marcus had spotted on their orbital maps. As they hiked through the forest, Marcus noticed more signs. Territorial markings on trees. Old kills picked clean by scavengers. Paths worn through the undergrowth by large animals. There are a lot of predators in this area, he said quietly. How can you tell? Zephyr asked. Marcus pointed out the signs he had noticed. Claw marks. Scent markers. Game trails. His teammates began to see the forest differently. What had looked like peaceful wilderness now showed evidence of constant struggle between hunter and prey. That first night, they set up camp near the stream. Marcus volunteered for first watch while his teammates slept. As darkness fell, the forest came alive with new sounds. Calls and cries from animals they couldn't see. The rustle of leaves as creatures moved through the darkness. Marcus sat still and listened. Gradually, he began to separate the sounds. Birds settling for the night. Small mammals foraging. insects buzzing, and something else. Something large moving carefully through the trees, trying not to make noise. He counted at least 6 different sets of footsteps circling their camp. They moved with coordination, like a hunting pack. Marcus didn't wake his teammates. Not yet. Instead, he quietly moved some of their supplies and reinforced their camp's perimeter. He placed noisemakers near the most likely approach routes. He positioned their backup gear where it would be safe if they had to move quickly. His teammates slept peacefully, trusting that their academy training had prepared them for anything Umbros could offer. Marcus kept watch and prepared for trouble. The attack came on the 3rd day. Marcus had tried to warn his teammates. Every morning, he showed them new tracks around their camp. Every evening, he pointed out signs that they were being watched. But the academy files said the local predators were manageable threats. His teammates believed the files more than they believed him. "You're being paranoid," Tidal Whisper had said the night before. Her skin had shifted to an annoyed orange color. "The academy has been running exercises on Umbros for 50 years. They know what they're doing." 18-200. When 60-43. "These animals don't read academy files," Marcus had replied, but his teammates had just exchanged glances. They were making good progress toward their first checkpoint. The forest was thick, but Zephyr could fly above the trees to scout their route. Granite Singer's strength helped them cross rocky areas and fallen logs. Tidal Whisper had found several edible plants that supplemented their rations. Marcus carried the heaviest pack and watched for danger. On the morning of the 3rd day, they were hiking through a valley between 2 hills. The trees grew closer together here, blocking most of the sunlight. The air felt thick and still. Marcus stopped walking. "What is it?" Zephyr asked from above the trees. Marcus held up his hand for silence. He listened carefully. The forest had gone quiet. No bird calls. No insect buzzing. No small animals moving through the undergrowth. "We need to move. Now," he said. "Why?" Granite Singer asked. "We're making good time." Marcus pointed to the trees around them. "Look at the bark." His teammates saw what he meant. Fresh claw marks scored the trunks at various heights. Recent territorial markings. And they were everywhere. "This is their hunting ground," Marcus said. "We walked right into it." That's when the howling started. The sound came from the hills on both sides of the valley. Deep, rolling calls that seemed to shake the air. More voices joined in, creating a chorus that surrounded them. "How many?" Zephyr asked, her feathers standing straight up. Marcus counted the calls. "At least 12, maybe more." Tidal Whisper's skin had gone pale white with fear. The files said there were only small packs, 3 or 4 animals at most. "The files were wrong," Marcus said. Granite Singer's internal light was pulsing rapidly. "What do we do?" Marcus was already moving. He led them toward a cluster of large rocks near the stream. "We need defensive positions. Backs to the rocks, clear fields of fire." "Fields of fire?" Zephyr asked. "Lines of sight, so we can see them coming." As they reached the rocks, the first predator appeared. It stepped out from behind a tree 50 meters away, and Marcus understood why the Academy had underestimated these creatures. They looked like wolves from Earth, but much larger. This one was the size of a small bear, with gray fur and yellow eyes. Its muscles moved under its coat like steel cables. When it opened its mouth, Marcus saw teeth designed for killing large prey. "It's bigger than the files," said. Granite Singer whispered. More predators appeared. They moved carefully, staying in cover. But Marcus could see them positioning themselves around the rocks. These weren't simple beasts following instinct. They were hunting with intelligence and coordination. "They're smart," he said. "They work together." Tidal Whisper raised her weapon, a standard Academy stunner. "I'll shoot it." "Wait," Marcus said. "Why not?" "Because there are 12 of them and 4 of us. If we start shooting, They'll all attack at once. Zephyr landed beside them, her wings folded tight with fear. So what do we do? Marcus studied the predators' positions. They had surrounded the rocks but hadn't attacked. They were patient. They knew their prey couldn't escape, so they were taking their time. They're pack hunters. Marcus said quietly. They have a strategy. Alpha leads, others follow. They'll try to drive us toward the weakest point in our defense. How do you know that? Granite Singer asked. Because that's what I would do. Marcus watched the pack leader, a huge male with a scarred muzzle. The Alpha was studying them just as carefully as Marcus was studying him. Their eyes met across 50 meters of forest. And Marcus saw intelligence there. The beast was evaluating threats. Planning an attack. Marcus made his decision. He stood up slowly and stepped away from the rocks. What are you doing? Zephyr hissed. Marcus walked toward the pack leader. Not directly, but at an angle. He moved calmly, without sudden motions. His hands stayed at his sides. The pack tensed. Several animals started forward, but the Alpha growled a command that stopped them. Marcus kept walking. He didn't look directly at the leader, but kept him in his peripheral vision. He angled his approach to put himself between the pack and a large tree. 15 meters from the Alpha, Marcus stopped. The forest was completely silent. 12 predators watched him with yellow eyes. Behind the rocks, his teammates held their breath. Marcus looked at the pack leader and did something that shocked everyone watching. He turned his back on the Alpha and walked away. Not quickly, like fleeing prey. Not slowly, like he was afraid. He walked with calm confidence, like he owned the forest. The Alpha snarled and charged. Marcus had been counting steps. When he reached the tree, he spun around it just as the huge predator leaped. The Alpha crashed into the trunk with stunning force. Before the beast could recover, Marcus was moving again. He grabbed a fallen branch and slammed it against another tree, making a loud crack that echoed through the valley. The sound triggered something in the pack's hunting instincts. 2 more predators charged toward the noise. Marcus was already gone. He had rolled under a fallen log and come up on the far side. As the 2 beasts searched for him, he threw a rock into the bushes 20 meters away. More predators rushed toward the sound. The pack's coordination was breaking down as individual animals followed separate signals. Marcus kept moving. He used every trick he had learned growing up on Earth. Misdirection, false trails, confusing sounds. He turned the pack's own instincts against them. When 2 predators finally cornered him in a clearing, Marcus did something that made them hesitate. He picked up a sharp rock and faced them calmly. No fear. No panic. Just a quiet readiness that spoke to something deep in their predator minds. These beasts had hunted for years. They knew prey behavior. Prey ran or fought wildly, or froze in terror. Marcus just stood there, holding his simple weapon, and watched them with the patience of something that had never been prey in its entire evolutionary history. The 2 predators looked at each other, confused. This wasn't how prey was supposed to act. While they hesitated, Marcus heard the Alpha howl a retreat call. The pack leader had figured it out. This strange creature wasn't prey. It was something else. Something dangerous in ways the pack couldn't understand. One by one, the predators melted back into the forest. They left without looking back. Marcus walked slowly back to his teammates, who stared at him in complete silence. How? Zephyr finally asked. Marcus sat down on a rock and wiped sweat from his forehead. I didn't fight them. I made them fight themselves. Tidal Whisper's skin was slowly returning to normal color. You could have been killed. Maybe, Marcus said, but running or shooting would have gotten us all killed. Granite Singer's light pulsed thoughtfully. You understood them. Marcus nodded. Predators think differently than prey. If you know how they think, you can predict what they'll do. Is that what they teach you on Earth? Zephyr asked. Marcus looked up at the trees where the pack had disappeared. Earth doesn't teach you anything. You learn. Or you die. The rest of the survival exercise passed quietly. Word of the pack encounter spread through the academy faster than Marcus had expected. By the time they returned to Serenitas Prime, other students were looking at him differently. Not with fear this time. With curiosity. Marcus was walking to his military strategy class when Zephyr caught up with him in the hallway. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure. What's it really like, growing up on Earth?" Marcus thought about how to answer. "Different," he said finally. "Different how?" They walked together toward the classroom. Other students noticed but didn't move away like they used to. "On most worlds, the biggest threat is other people," Marcus said. "Wars, politics, accidents. On Earth, everything is a threat. The weather can kill you. Plants can kill you. Tiny bacteria can kill you. Animals definitely want to kill you." Zephyr's feathers ruffled. "That sounds horrible." "It's not horrible. It's just normal. You learn to pay attention, to think ahead, to have backup plans. Is that why you knew about the pack?" Marcus shrugged. "I knew they were hunters. All hunters think the same way. Whether they're wolves or tigers or humans. Humans are hunters. The best ones," Marcus said without thinking. Then he saw Zephyr's expression. "Sorry, I don't mean that to sound threatening." "It doesn't sound threatening," Zephyr said slowly. "It sounds impressive." In military strategy class, instructor Kef9 was discussing the Battle of Centauri 7. The elegant Etherean colonel used holographic displays to show fleet movements and tactical decisions. "The hegemony forces had superior numbers," she said, "but the Alliance fleet used unconventional tactics to achieve victory." "Can anyone explain how?" Several hands went up. Marcus wasn't one of them. He had read about this battle, and the unconventional tactics seemed obvious to him. "Cadet title whisper?" Kef9 said. "The Alliance used their speed advantage to attack supply lines instead of engaging the main fleet directly." "Correct. And why was this effective?" "Because the hegemony fleet couldn't fight without supplies," another student answered. Kef9 nodded. "A classic example of asymmetric warfare. The weaker force used its advantages to attack the stronger force's weaknesses." Marcus raised his hand. "Yes, Cadet Chen. With respect, instructor. That's not asymmetric warfare. That's just warfare." The classroom went quiet. Kef9's head feathers shifted slightly. "Explain," she said. Marcus stood up, following Academy protocol. "The textbook calls it unconventional because it assumes both sides will fight the same way. But fighting fair is how you lose. You always attack where your enemy is weak. You always use advantages they can't match. There's nothing unconventional about it. And how would you know this, Cadet?" Marcus felt the attention of every student in the room. "Because every predator on Earth learned the same lesson millions of years ago. You don't attack where prey is strong. You wait for weakness." Kef9 studied him for a long moment. "And what does this suggest about human military doctrine? That humans don't fight fair. We fight to win." The instructor's holographic display changed, showing a different battle. "The siege of Vorthok Prime," she said. "Human forces were outnumbered 50-1. How did they achieve victory?" Marcus looked at the tactical display. "They turned the planet's atmosphere processors into weapons, poisoned the air in the cities where the enemy was strongest. Civilian casualties were minimal because the humans had evacuated those areas first." Kef9 noted. "But many military historians called it a war crime." "It ended the war," Marcus said. "Sometimes you have to choose between being right and being alive. And humans choose being alive? Always." After class, Marcus found himself surrounded by other cadets asking questions. How did humans think about tactics? What made Earth so dangerous? How had they become the only Deathworld species to achieve spaceflight? Marcus tried to explain. He talked about persistence hunting, where humans would chase prey animals for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. He described how human cities were built to withstand earthquakes, hurricanes, and floods. He mentioned that humans had learned to eat things that were poisonous to most other species. "We're adaptable," he said. "Earth kept changing the rules, so we learned to change with them." "Is that why other species fear humans?" asked Granite Singer. Marcus considered this. "I think they fear what we represent. Most species evolved on stable worlds, where the rules stayed the same. Humans evolved on a world where the rules changed constantly. We got good at breaking things that don't work and building new things that do." "That sounds like revolution," said another student. "Maybe. But revolution just means changing things that need changing." Word of these conversations reached the instructors. Marcus noticed them watching him more carefully in classes. Not suspiciously, but thoughtfully. In his xenobiology course, Professor Yith Moore asked him to describe human dietary requirements. "Humans are omnivores," Marcus said. "We can eat almost anything organic, including things that are toxic to other species?" "Yes. Our ancestors learned to cook, ferment, and process foods that were naturally poisonous. We turned them into safe nutrition." "Why would they do such a dangerous thing?" "Because the safe food ran out." The professor's tentacles curled with what Marcus had learned was amusement. "So humans learned to eat poison rather than starve?" "We learned to make poison into food," Marcus corrected. "There's a difference." These discussions spread beyond the classroom. In the dining hall, students would sit near Marcus's table to listen to his explanations of human behavior. In study groups, they asked his opinion on tactical problems. Marcus found himself with friends for the first time since arriving at the academy. One evening, as he sat in the common room helping Zephyr with her survival techniques homework, she asked him the question he had been expecting. "Marcus, do you think humans are better than other species?" Marcus put down his datapad and thought carefully. "Better at what?" "Surviving, fighting, winning." "We're better at adapting," Marcus said. "But that doesn't make us better people." "What's the difference?" Marcus looked around the room. Students from a dozen different species were studying, talking, and relaxing together. "Look at this place. Etherians brought art and music. Vorthak brought engineering and architecture. Narratians brought medicine and philosophy. Every species contributed something that made the galaxy better. And what did humans contribute?" Marcus smiled. "We contributed the idea that nothing is impossible if you're willing to change how you think about it." Zephyr tilted her head. "Is that why the Academy accepted you?" "Maybe. Or maybe they just wanted to see what would happen." As the weeks passed, Marcus noticed a change in how other students treated him. They still recognized that he was different, but the difference no longer frightened them. They began to see his perspective as valuable rather than threatening. When group projects were assigned, students competed to have Marcus on their teams. When tactical simulations ran in combat training, everyone wanted to hear his analysis. Marcus was no longer walking the academy halls alone, but he knew that the real test was still coming. The emergency alarm woke Marcus from deep sleep. Red lights flashed in his room as the academy's communication system crackled to life. "All students and staff report to Assembly Hall immediately. Emergency situation. This is not a drill." Marcus dressed quickly and joined the stream of worried cadets flowing through the hallways. In Assembly Hall, Commandant Velthara stood at the podium. The ancient keeper's silver robes seemed to glow in the emergency lighting. 6 hours ago, Transport 77 Delta crashed on Thanatos 7, she announced. The ship was carrying 12 Academy staff members, returning from a training conference. "We have confirmed survivors." Murmurs rippled through the assembled students. Everyone knew about Thanatos 7. It was a quarantined death world, where no rescue operation had ever succeeded. Previous rescue attempts have failed. Velthara continued. The creatures on Thanatos 7 are beyond anything in our experience. However, we cannot abandon our people. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He had read about Thanatos 7 during his research on death worlds. Even by death world standards, it was extreme. The planet was home to creatures that made Earth's most dangerous predators look harmless. The Galactic Defense Corps has declined to authorize a rescue mission, Velthara said. They consider it a suicide operation. The hall erupted in angry voices. Students shouted protests. Several instructors stood to voice objections. Velthara raised her hand for silence. However, the Academy will not abandon its people. We are calling for volunteers for an emergency rescue mission. Marcus stood up. The hall went quiet. Every eye turned toward him. Cadet Chen, Velthara said. I volunteer, Commandant. You understand the nature of this mission? Thanatos 7 is classified as a Class 15 death world. Nothing we have trained you for has prepared you for those conditions. Marcus thought about Earth, about growing up where everything was trying to kill him, about learning to think like a predator while staying human. Nothing could prepare anyone for those conditions, he said. But I'm from a Class 12 death world. That's closer than anyone else here. Other hands started to rise. Zephyr stood up. Then, Granite Singer. Then dozens of other cadets. Velthara looked at them all, her ancient eyes sad but proud. I appreciate your courage. But this is not a training exercise. This is not a team mission. One person, moving fast and quiet, has the best chance of reaching the survivors and calling for extraction. Then it should be me. Why you? Marcus looked around the hall at his classmates and instructors. These were good people. Brave people. But they came from worlds where cooperation and rules and fairness mattered. Because I'm the only one here who learned to hunt before I learned to talk, he said. 2 hours later, Marcus stood in the shuttle bay checking his gear. Standard survival kit. Emergency beacon. Medical supplies. Basic rations for 3 days. Zephyr found him there. This is insane, she said. You can't walk into that place alone. I won't be alone, Marcus replied. I'll have 12 people counting on me. Quote, the creatures on Thanatos 7 killed entire military units. Marcus adjusted his pack straps. Military units think like military units. They use tactics and formations and heavy weapons. That makes them predictable. Number 7. Number 7. And you're not predictable? Marcus smiled. I'm human. We stopped being predictable when we learned to use tools. The shuttle flight to Thanatos 7 took 8 hours. Marcus spent the time reading every file the Academy had on the planet. The information was sparse and terrifying. Thanatos 7 was a world where evolution had gone insane. Acid blood predators that could melt through armor. Pack hunters with diamond-hard claws. Flying creatures large enough to carry off vehicles. And those were just the ones that had been documented before the quarantine. The shuttle pilot, a nervous Vorthak named Crystal Song, refused to land. I'll drop you from 50 meters, she said. That's as close as I'm getting to that surface. Marcus didn't argue. He strapped on a parachute and prepared for insertion. As the shuttle descended through Thanatos 7's atmosphere, Marcus got his first look at the planet's surface. Black trees twisted toward a red sky. Steam rose from pools of liquid that might have been water or acid. In the distance, something huge moved between the trees. Landing zone in 30 seconds. Crystal Song announced. Emergency beacon is tuned to your life signs. If you stop moving for more than 6 hours, I'll assume you're dead and leave. Understood. Marcus jumped. He landed in a clearing near the crash site. The transport lay broken among the black trees. Its hull cracked open like an egg, but he could see lights inside. Someone was still alive. As Marcus approached the wreck, he heard them, footsteps in the darkness, breathing that wasn't quite animal and wasn't quite machine, the rustle of things moving through alien undergrowth. He stopped walking and listened. There were dozens of them out there, maybe hundreds, all moving with purpose, all focused on the crashed transport. Marcus understood. The ship was a trap now. The survivors inside were bait, and he was walking into the hunting ground of creatures that had turned killing into an art form. He smiled. These creatures had never met anything like them. They were apex predators, on a world where being apex meant being perfect. But Marcus came from Earth. And on Earth, being perfect meant being adaptable. He started walking toward the crash site. Not sneaking. Not running. Just walking calmly through a forest full of things that could kill him in a dozen different ways. The first creature stepped out to challenge him. It was the size of a rhinoceros, covered in armor plates that gleamed like metal. Its mouth opened to reveal 3 rows of serrated teeth. Marcus looked at it and kept walking. The creature snarled and took a step forward. Then, it stopped. Something in Marcus's posture, his movement, his complete lack of fear, triggered an ancient recognition. This wasn't prey. The armored beast backed away. Marcus continued through the forest. More creatures appeared. A pack of 6-legged hunters with claws like swords. A flying thing with acid dripping from its mouth. Something that looked like a cross between a spider and a tank. Each one sized him up. Each one reached the same conclusion. This human walked through their hunting ground like he owned it. He moved with the confidence of something that had never been prey. Never been afraid. Never doubted that he belonged at the top of any food chain. Ring never process. Ring never process. One by one, the apex predators of Thanatos 7 stepped aside. Marcus reached the transport and found 11 survivors huddled in the cargo bay. They were injured, but alive. When they saw him, several started to cry. "How?" asked Professor Kenth II, a Nereidian with a broken arm. "How did you get through them?" Marcus activated his emergency beacon and began treating the wounded. "I didn't fight them," he said. "I just reminded them what a real apex predator looks like. But there are hundreds of them out there." Marcus looked through a crack in the hull. Yellow eyes gleamed in the darkness beyond. Creatures that could tear apart battle tanks watched him work. "And now they're all wondering the same thing," he said. "What kind of world produces something like me? And do they really want to find out?" The extraction ship arrived 6 hours later. As Marcus helped the survivors board, he noticed the creatures of Thanatos 7 maintaining their distance. They watched from the tree line as the ship lifted off, but none of them approached. Back at the academy, Marcus found himself surrounded by reporters, academy officials, and Galactic Defense Corps officers. Everyone wanted to know how he had succeeded where entire military units had failed. "It's simple," he told them. "Every predator recognizes another predator. These creatures spent their whole evolution becoming perfect killers on a perfect killing world." "And?" prompted Admiral Thek 7. "And I come from an imperfect world where perfect killers went extinct because they couldn't adapt fast enough." Commandant Velthara studied him with her ancient eyes. "What do you think this means for humanity's role in the Galactic Defense Corps?" Marcus thought about his classmates, who had wanted to volunteer for a suicide mission to save people they barely knew. He thought about the Academy, which had given him a chance, despite the fears of other species. He thought about the galaxy beyond, full of threats that might require new kinds of thinking to defeat. "I think it means we have a lot to learn from each other," he said. Months later, Marcus walked through the academy halls to his new assignment. The corridor was full of students from across the galaxy, all talking and laughing together. Some of them nodded to him as he passed. Others called out greetings. A few joined him as he walked, asking questions about his latest xenobiology project, or seeking advice on tactical simulations. Marcus was no longer the only human at the academy. 3 more had been accepted after the Thanatos 7 incident, but he was still the first. As he entered his classroom for advanced predator psychology, Marcus reflected on how much had changed. He had come to the academy as an outsider. Now he was helping to train the next generation of officers to think like humans when the situation demanded it. To be adaptable. To be unpredictable. To remember that the best way to win was to change the rules when the old ones didn't work. Outside the window, the twin suns of Serenitas Prime cast their warm light across the academy grounds. It was still a beautiful, peaceful place. But now it was also a place where students learned that sometimes, when everything else failed, you needed someone from a death world to walk alone into the darkness and remind the monsters why humans were the apex predators they had never seen coming.